What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the earnings that just came out and how they may affect the market moving forward. I'm also going to be talking about some other factors when it comes to my predictions for SPY, the QQQ, Nvda, and many tickers out there. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 40. The offer ends very soon in just 2 days. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. If you look at what's happening with SPY right now, as I zoom out all the way, you will see that we are once again holding this level very, very nicely. We're holding our wedge. So far, the bulls have the edge. They're continuing to defend the market as it's moving. So if you look at this, we had the support here. We bounced off of it. We came back to support here, bounced, came close to it, and then bounced. And now we're testing the support again and continuing to hold up. So the rising wedge remains, and SPY is continuing to get bought up. The question is, why is the market getting bought back up right now, and what's affecting it? I want to talk about all of that in this video. Then I'll break down more information about other factors. So the first thing worth mentioning is the fact that when it comes to the way the market's moving, we didn't really see utilities or health really affect the market as much. It's more like tech is what was leading the market up. So right now, we're seeing the Microsofts, the Metas, the Amazons pushing the market up. They're the ones who have a bigger edge. And it's going to have a more profound effect on the QQQ and the NASDAQ. So just keep that in mind, guys. We're expecting more volatility tomorrow, more potential upside as we're seeing tech getting bought back up, leading the market higher. This is also what helped the S&P 500 push a bit because they have very, very big weights, and they're being used to adjust the algorithms that are still pushing the market higher. Now, what's happening with earnings? Let's talk about what's on everyone's mind right now. That's earnings. Just know we just got AMD, Alphabet, and Snap announcing their earnings. Tomorrow morning, there's not really much coming out for earnings, just like Caterpillar and some minor ones. But then after market close, don't forget we have Microsoft, Meta, Coinbase, and many more of these big tech earnings. So big tech earnings are back, and that's what's affecting the market right now. The first one to really talk about is AMD. AMD is not doing as great, despite the fact that they did relatively well with earnings. So let me explain. So what happened was AMD shares are falling as a result of their forecast. They're not really impressing investors despite the strong AI growth. So this is very important for AMD, those who are interested in investing in it and trading it. EPS was as expected at 92 cents adjusted. Revenue is at $6.82 billion above expectations. However, there is one issue with this. Sure, we did good when it comes to our sales. Their important data center business doubled in sales for the second quarter in a row. And overall, their revenue guidance for the fourth quarter was aligned with expectations, but it wasn't really enough to get those investors hyped up. So they're saying that they're expecting about $7.5 billion in sales in the current quarter, in line with the consensus expectations of about $1.16 $1.16 basically adjusted. But that would be basically a 22% decline for the December quarter, unfortunately. So even though they have guidance that's aligned with what we're expecting, it still is a decline compared to what we saw last year. And that's the reason why guidance is not really impressing investors, as the market's very forward looking, and AMD is taking a hit because of that. So that's why AMD is down right now. On the other hand, we have Alphabet, and they're doing relatively well. They're actually pushing quite a bit right now. So why is that? Let's go over the details. The first thing worth mentioning is the fact that as far as their earnings have gone, we're looking for growth for the 3 months ending of September of about 35% year over year for their EPS. So we're looking at $2.12 per share, topping forecast of about $1.85. When it comes to their overall revenue, so not bad whatsoever, also up about 15% at $88 billion, above the $86 billion expectation. So they beat on EPS and revenue. We also saw search and other revenues go up about 11%. YouTube ad revenue is up about 12.4%, not bad. And then it's also above what forecasts happen to be. And what was close to expectations was the Google Cloud revenue. That was what we were anticipating, so not too bad as well. Besides that, they're talking about how AI solutions are helping to create deeper product adoption to existing customers, attract new ones, and etc. They're also talking about how for the 4 quarters, basically altogether, they're surpassing $50 billion in revenue for YouTube total ads and subscriptions. And guidance is not bad. So that's why the share price is continuing to soar for Google. This is what's holding the market up. We have the big tech company Alphabet in the lead. So that's what's having a bigger effect right now. Yes, AMD is going to affect the market to some extent, especially semiconductors like Nvda. We just know that Alphabet's going to have a bigger overall effect on the market because of how big it tends to be, how many investors watch this, and then how it ends up affecting other tech companies such as like Meta and Amazon. So just keep that in mind. As far as the market's data goes for tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. It's going to be the second to last day of October. Time sure is absolutely flying. We're almost in November, guys. Pretty crazy stuff. So an hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Eastern Standard Time is the time that the stock market uses, especially for New York, we have the GDP growth numbers coming out. We have GDP growth rates. We're expecting 3 to 3.3%. The GDP price index around 2.7 to 2.5%, and then more numbers involving our gross domestic product. So it's going to give us more insights on how the economy is looking, at least on paper. So expect some high volatility when we open up tomorrow. As of right now, the main catalyst is going to be Alphabet's earnings. This is helping the market push, so it does favor upside for the markets, but we will see what the GDP numbers lead to. If we just kind of take this out of account right now the market's looking more bullish and it favors upside, so we'll see how things end up going, but the bulls do have an edge nonetheless. Another reason why I say that is because right now, greed is making up the majority of sentiment. There's a lot of greed still present in the markets. Momentum is that greed right now is we're holding very, very nicely above our 125 daily moving average for the S&P 500. And we have the put to call option ratio right now at neutral, stuck at that 0.7 ratio, not too bad. Whereas volatility is also still holding up. We're still above our 50 daily moving average. So not bad whatsoever for this data. There's still a lot of buyers present and they still have a bigger edge, at least for the way that the market is moving. So just keep that in mind, guys. The buyers, the big ones, they're the ones who have a bigger edge. They are still very, very present. So with that being said, let's now talk about the charts. What do I think is going to pan out for tomorrow? What is my prediction? So yes, even though AMD's earnings was not that great in terms of their guidance, just know that Google/Alphabet has a bigger effect, and that's what's helping the S&P 500 and SPY push right now. Now, one thing worth mentioning is the fact that we have a range. You guys see the range right over here on SPY. As we hit 578 to 575, we do have a tendency of kind of bouncing. And when we hit 585 or so, the 580s, we do have a tendency of rejecting. So you guys can see how there's a range right over here. Now, we're riding this trend line up on SPY. So the rising wedge is present. And as of right now, we are favoring a 4-hour bounce on the PPO. Let me just hide my drawings real quick just to show you this. This looks more bullish with a nice accumulation here and a nice distribution. But I'm zooming out because of this. When you look at the daily charts, we still technically are looking a little bit more bullish as we held our daily 20 EMA, the green line you see right over here. So this looks more bullish heading into tomorrow. We are favoring upside so long as we don't lose some key levels. But let's go over the levels now, and then I'll break down my predictions. So on SPY, if we were to hypothetically lose 580, that's our 50 EMA, we're going to be turning back down to 578. If we're bullish, as long as we're above 582, we are favoring a push close to 584 to 585, near all-time highs. As of right now, based off what the chart is doing, as we're holding this trend line, and we got some good earnings from Google, this is favoring getting very close to all-time highs. Now, that doesn't guarantee we're going to run forever because we do tend to reject near 585 historically. So just be careful once we get back up there. I think we push a little bit more, and then we'll have to see if we get a rejection. But so far, the bulls have a bigger edge. For others out there, we have ES. ES is looking more bullish. As long as we don't lose 58.60, we are favoring the upwards direction once again, as we have this nice range that's being established. Now, I did mention to you all that, yes, there could be a downtrend coming to the markets in the future, but possibly after the election. And just know that right now, we're not ready for that big rug pull. It could happen in the future. Yes, it could happen in a couple of weeks, but we're not ready quite yet. So just keep that in mind. So with that being said, guys, I think that the odds are favoring a little bit more upside. We could be getting very, very close to the 5,900 area. I think ES is going to try to push a little bit higher. As long as we don't lose 58.66, we are favoring the upwards direction. If we lose 58.66, I'm looking for 58.50, then 58.30 is our supports. But this is favoring that I want to get closer to 5,900 for the time being. How about for Nvda? It's a little bit weak compared to the market. It's actually down just kind of flat right now because of AMD's earnings. AMD, unfortunately, did not do as well because of guidance, which does lead to a little bit of fear amongst this sector because the market does have certain stocks that affect sectors. So like AMD is a semiconductor stock, it's affecting Nvda. So it has a more profound effect on Nvda. That's why Nvda is kind of consolidating right now. So it looks to me like we're forming a flag, getting tighter, tighter, tighter right over here. We're forming this pennant, I mean. So I think that what's going to happen is we might dip a little bit on Nvda retest 140, then attempt to rebound back up to about 142 and get tighter and tighter before we see a breakout in either direction. So I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation for Nvidia. That's my prediction. And I think our range is between 138 and 144, but we're going to be stuck range bound for the time being. That is my prediction for now. For Bitcoin, we pumped very nicely to 73,000, even exceeding my expectations. We might see a little bit of a cool down on Bitcoin. We could be retesting 72,000 flats, if not 71,500 in this range over here before we see this thing attempt to bounce again. So that's what I'm anticipating for Bitcoin, a little bit of a dip before anything else. Excuse me. That's what I'm seeing so far. How about for Tesla? Tesla looks to me like it's forming a wick, so it has potential to attempt a rebound move. We formed a wick here. We got a bullish looking bar here. So what tends to happen is we attempt to go back up. We could see a retest of 262 tomorrow, a little bit of a push before this thing may continue to dip again later on. So if we get above 260, look for 262 to 265 as our potential target area up here for a small push. If we don't hold above 260, we kind of like pop above it and start dipping. We're looking for another retest of 265, followed by 256. Excuse me, 256 is going to be tested if we lose 260, followed by 253. So just keep that in mind. I think tomorrow Tesla will attempt to push in the morning, but it's not going to be that strong. It might be a little bit lackluster and consolidate for a bit, depending on the news. And then we might see, we might see a little bit of a dip later on back down to the low of the day. So just keep that in mind. I think Tesla is still in a cool down area as we're seeing its volume slow down. So it's lacking volume. It's slowing down a little bit. That's why Tesla's kind of slowing. For NQ, we're getting good volume. This is a bullish looking trend. This looks bullish. I think it's going to be testing 20,800 very soon. And if that breaks, we're looking at the next 100 point move above that to 20,900, once again approaching the highs. If we lose 20,680, we're looking for a dip back down to 20,500. But I presume there's going to be a little bit more upside for 20,800, if not above that, before we see a big rejection. So look for a little bit more upside potential on NQ. We still look bullish, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get from there. On the QQQ, despite the fact that we have this pennant / rising wedge like structure, more of a rising wedge, I would say that it's still bullish because we're still making higher highs and higher lows. If you just zoom out, you could quite clearly see that. And we're doing a good job at holding up, in my personal opinion. So far, so good by the overall tech sector. So in my opinion, I think the QQQ could be going for these highs up here towards the 505 area, and we're still favoring upside. So as long as we don't lose 500, if we lose 500, we're looking for a retest of about 498 then 495. But as long as we're above 500, we're looking for basically 502.5 then 505 as our targets. So I think the QQQ looks more bullish. We're looking for basically an attempt to test these highs up here. I think that 502.5 is coming followed by 505 as the share price looks more bullish. For others out there like Aapl is just range bound right now. It's consolidating, but it's going to be looking for a big move approaching earnings. So I think it's going to be very tight for now, depending on news and other factors. But for now, we're just going to see some consolidation until earnings. That's what I think is most likely happening. So look for a lot of range-bound price action between 231 and 235, going back and forth and back and forth. If we were to lose 231, though, we're looking for an attempt to get back down to 229. I don't really favor it too much. I think we're just consolidating, and it's going to continue this for some time until we see a big reaction after our earnings. And earnings is just a couple of days away for Aapl, so don't really panic too much, guys. It's going to be completely fine. Now I'm going to be doing a speed run for the rest of these, so just bear with me if I am going kind of fast. I do apologize about that, but I'm just trying to be super, super concise while simultaneously giving you guys as comprehensive as of an update as possible. Anyways, Netflix looks a little bit more bullish as long as we don't lose 753.8. As long as that does not fail us, we favor upside. Could be looking for a push with tech back up to about 764. And then if that breaks, we're looking for this high up here to be tested around 768. So as long as we don't lose 754, we favor upside. It's doing a good job thus far. For CELH or Celsius, like I said before, we have a problem. Our resistance is now developing at our 50 EMA. So this is where this yellow line happens to be. So this is kind of slowing us down as we kind of hit this rejected, hit this rejected, hit this rejected. Look for a push for about 31.5, and then we could be dipping back down lower, taking us back down to about 30.8. So watch for that very carefully. For Palantir, we're just kind of consolidating as well around the 45 area. We may continue to do so as time goes on. I'm not really seeing much. We could be looking for a small dip to 44.5 before it tries to bounce. So look for 44.5 and 44.29 as our targets before it attempts to rebound. There might be a little bit of downside, so give this the time it needs. That's what I'm looking for, at least as time goes on. For Supermicro, we're just completely range bound right now, going back and forth and back and forth. we have this tough resistance at our 200 EMA, just under 50. So 50 is kind of tough, very close to that range. Because we're not breaking through that, I think that as semiconductors are dipping, this might dip a little bit more. So we're going to be looking for 47.64 to 48 is our target. And we'll see if we bounce off that. So look for a little bit more downside on Supermicro for the time being as the most likely move. Rivian is basically copying Tesla. It pushed with Tesla. Now it's dipping for the last day and a half, just like Tesla. So it might pop up a little bit, trying to bounce off its 10.47 area, the 50 EMA, for a bit of a push for 10.6. Then it could reject off that and start dipping back down towards 10.2. So a bounce and a dip are the most likely cases, in my opinion. We'll see if that ends up continuing or not. As far as SOFI goes, we're looking a little bit more bearish after earnings have come out. I went over this in the morning. Unfortunately, guys, SOFI's earnings didn't really impress investors. So we're basically looking for 10.29 is our support, followed by 9.75. So look for a little bit more downside potentially. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're just range bound right now, but it's showing some potential to bounce. So as long as we don't lose 221.25, this favors a move back up for 223. If we lose 221.25, we're going to be dipping back down to 220. This is favoring that it wants to dip and then bounce. So it might try to get back up to 222.8. There is potential in this to try to rebound after this big green bar. So this is like breaking through resistance, coming back down to retest, and maybe getting a bounce as the most likely case. Unless we lose 221, I do favor the upside. AMD looks more bearish, guys. I went over this already. We're not doing too well. Kind of like a distributive structure. We need to get back above 157 to turn back up, which is looking very unlikely. I favor it's going to be coming back down to 150 and eventually fill the gap to 149 for more downside, which may slow down Nvda and Supermicro. For ARM, this may also slow down thanks to that. We hit this resistance around 157. We could be retesting 152, so look for a small dip. And we'll see if we get a bounce near 150. So look for 152 to 150, and we'll see if we get a bounce. For coin, we are currently range bound. This is our range up here between 224 and 216. We're going to see a lot of sideways price action. Break 224, we turn more bullish. Lose 216, we turn more bearish for 213. Then eventually this gap support at 208 is coming. But for now, we're just range bound, so give this some time to develop. For Amazon, we're bullish thanks to the earnings that came out by Google/Alphabet. This is bullish. If you look at this accumulation, it's bullish, looking like a nice cup. So I presume we're going to be filling this a balance for 190, a little bit under 195. So it could be pushing close to 194.8 to 195. Look for more upside on Amazon. As long as we don't lose 190, we favor upside. So it looks bullish to me. For Meta, I have a lot of levels, guys. I'm sorry about that. I need to kind of update this chart later on. We're holding up nicely as long as we don't lose 600. We're favoring 605. I think 605 is likely coming. Meta has more upside potential as we're building momentum. So far, so good. Microsoft is looking bullish thanks to Google. Its big brother Google's helping it out, or little brother, if anything. Now it's trying to push higher, so we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 438 to 440. So I favor a little bit more upside on Microsoft as well. So I think that this is going to try to push, as long as we don't lose 434, we favor a push for 438 to 440. Google's bullish. We're up to 180, which is where our resistance happens to be. I kind of mark these levels. If 180 fails, let's look for 178 and 175 as our supports. And if we hold above 180, there is technically potential to go all the way up for 185. So it still has potential to push more tomorrow. Overall, it remains more bullish. For a few more, DJT, like I said yesterday, was more bullish. We pushed even more. Might dip a bit after it pumps so much. So we could be looking for a retest of 48 before it tries to bounce. So watch and see how that ends up going. The VIX is looking a little bit more bearish, but it depends on if we hold above 19.35 or not. If we don't hold above 19.35, this could be dipping back down to the 18s, and that could be a little bit more bearish for the VIX as the market remains more bullish. So far, the market looks bullish and the VIX is looking more bearish. The 10-year is looking more bearish as we're dipping back down to about 4.25, could be dipping lower. And then the dollar index is also dipping, so we're looking for 104 as our support. If that does not hold, we're looking for a dip back down. That's technically bullish for the markets. So for now, as of right now, the market looks more bullish. I'm favoring upside for tomorrow because of Alphabet's earnings. Some tickers like semiconductors such as Nvda and AMD and Supermicro and ARM could be a little bit weaker because of AMD's earnings. So just keep that in mind, but overall, the market still wants to push higher. This could be shifted depending on the GDP numbers tomorrow, so watch for those at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until then, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. So please have a great day. I will see you guys tomorrow before the market opens. And I hope you guys like my new setup. This is something I'm going to be trying to use more often. Just know this, for my morning videos, I'm going to actually maybe have lower quality because I have to upload those as fast as possible. I can't wait like 20, 30 minutes to upload the video. It takes too long in my pre-market videos and etc. That's why I might just stick to my typical setup for my morning videos. But then for my afternoon videos, I'm going to switch to this one. This should be better quality and a lot better. That's how it has to be, unfortunately, for now, because of how quick the market moves and how tricky it is to catch opens. So hopefully you guys can understand why I do this. I want to thank you all once again for listening. Have a good day, night, or evening. I'll be back tomorrow for another update. Thanks again, and peace out.